I'm so excited to welcome onto the show today Jen Trepeck, health coach, podcaster, and business consultant. Jen has over a decade of experience working with clients and helping individuals make themselves as well as their health a priority. Jen started Salad with a Side of Fries podcast. I love this title. Yes, it's based on science, yet it's very lighthearted as well. So fun to listen to. And who wants life without fries and dessert? So cute. I love this. Jen has been described as a force of nature in the wellness space, and we get her today. So, welcome, Jen. How are you?
I'm good, Lindsay. Thanks so much for having me.
Yes, I'm thrilled to talk. I feel like we're going to have such fun flow together because we're very much aligned and on the same page. So, if our
For
listeners
sure.
enjoy this talk today, I encourage you to jump over and grab some of Jen's podcast. And again, your title, Salad with the Side of Fries, is amazing. Did that just come to you? Were
Thanks.
you like, I've got a title at this?
No, I mean, well, first of all, it's my go-to meal. And at one point, I was going to name the show French fries and cookie dough because it's like two foods that I will never give up, at least not entirely. And then it was one of those of like, it doesn't really tell people what they're going to get from listening. And I was working with somebody when I first launched my show. And so we had a meeting and we were talking about the title and we were like, all right, we're going to think on it. And then we were leaving the meeting. He's like, where are you going? I was like, oh, I'm going to go get something to eat. He's like, what are you going to have? And I was like, probably salad with a side of fries. And he was like, hello. And I was like, okay, you're right. We'll
This
do
is
that.
it.
Yeah.
This is it. I love how
Yeah.
titles happen like that. It's like you
Yeah.
just already named it. Oh,
Exactly.
so good. And I think we align even on this. My title comes with wine loving dietitian and kind of the same purpose of like, we don't have to be perfect. We don't have to not have the fun things in life in order to still uphold a healthy lifestyle. So I love that you're saying it with the fries component or the cookie dough. Because do you find that a lot of your clients really get stuck in this, like, I've got to adhere to this 100% of the time?
Absolutely. I mean, first of all, when I have a conversation with somebody, it's going through all of the things that they've tried. Like we have done every diet out there, myself included.
Mhm.
And inherently, that comes with an on off, good, bad differentiation. And the reality is, once we really understand how the body works, everything is just a choice. And when it's not something that's designed for a finite period of time, but something that's designed to live forever, we just keep going. But inherently, when we start, because we've come with all this history, that's very much where we're coming from and the framework that we've been taught. And so it's how we think about these things, because to think about it as a lifestyle, to think about it as where do all of these things fit in
Mhm.
versus those are on the no list and these are on the yes list is a really different approach.
It is. And I love that you're highlighting this because it just shows we really have to get out of that approach and undo that learning in order to step into this new transformed person that we are, right? You even mentioned, I feel like on a piece on your website that you fixed your
Yeah.
eating self.
Yeah.
Can you walk us through a little bit of what that fixing looked like?
Yeah, I say I kicked my food issues because before, again, living on all the diets, obsessing over the food, there were times where I felt like I would breathe and gain weight. It was, how is this possible? And all of that approach also made me feel like at every meal in my head, I'm thinking about the next meal. And every time to decide what to eat, I am mentally rehashing everything I've eaten that whole day and the day before and the month before and the year before and trying to rationalize or justify any decision, whether it's a healthful one or not. And ultimately, I learn now it takes 12 weeks, right? Even then, it takes time to learn this, but I call it the nutrition education we're all supposed to know and no one ever taught us. And it's essentially how foods impact the body and what our body does with food so that we can then make an informed choice. Because before, anytime we've been given a diet or a plan or whatever it is, it's like, okay, here are the rules, but we've never been taught why. So to me, the difference between knowing what to do and actually doing it, actually choosing it, is understanding why. So part of what I learned is that whether we are burning fat or storing fat is a function of blood sugar. So living in those extremes, like when our blood sugar is too high, essentially, kind of the long and the short of it is, our body overproduces insulin to keep up with and carry all of that fuel to our muscles and our cells, right? But our muscles and our cells can only take in so much fuel at a time and they close. But our fat cells, they're geniuses. They're always open and they store all of that extra fuel as fat and they store the extra insulin as fat. So what that looks like in real life is we might sit down at a restaurant and even if let's say textbook exists, right? We sit down, we order textbook, steamed fish and vegetables, and then they put the bread basket down. We start with the bread. The bread spikes our blood sugar. Now our steamed fish and vegetables is being stored as fat. I learned that I was like, oh my goodness. Suddenly it's not about the calories. Then the other extreme, because how many times have we been told to eat less, move more? So the other extreme of not eating food or not eating enough or cutting out whole food groups, our body does not know that there's a refrigerator full of food that we're choosing not to eat. Our body says it must be a time of famine. And our body is designed innately to survive. It is survival above all else. So our body's job is to survive. It's not getting food. Body interpretation is it must be a time of famine. You will not kill me. Anything and everything I get now, I am going to hold on to. What is fat? Fat is fuel stored to be used later. So now we don't eat all day. We sit down at the restaurant. We order that same textbook in air quotes, right? Steamed fish and vegetables. And the body is storing it as fat because the body thinks it's a time of famine. So our objective is to choose quality nutrition, low glycemic impact foods, protein, fiber, quality fat, to keep our blood sugar stable in this middle range. Now, it doesn't mean that we don't want fluctuations in our blood sugar. We do, because that's natural, and that's a sign of the body properly responding. But we want to avoid those extremes of really high or really low. What happens then when our blood sugar is stable in that middle range, fluctuating in this middle range over the long haul for a sustained period of time? We are never contributing to the fat stores the way we were before in those extremes. And over time, I always say this isn't magic, it's science, but it feels magical because what happens is that the body starts to go, wait a minute, it's never a time of famine. I'm safe. I can release the fat stores I've been holding on to. And it also is better equipped to handle the occasional spike or drop. So now you can celebrate your birthday and enjoy the cake or the holiday or whatever it is and have it not impact you the same way it does right now. These fundamentally were key lessons that allowed me to make choices about the foods I was eating from a place that felt empowered and in control rather than because of rules and then feeling deprived.
Absolutely. Right. The rules and then the deprivation and to be able to get out of that thinking, I think takes so much practice and years typically. And do you ever even just see it creep back in for a minute? Can you see some of those old habits, even though you're like coaching and you know differently? Like, can you still see your brain shift back that direction sometimes?
It's interesting. So it's now been almost 20 years. And it's not that my brain shifts back to that. It's more that I notice what creates the cravings. It's more that I notice, oh, I really didn't eat enough this morning. Or, oh, I'm getting close to my cycle. or right, like I noticed the things differently rather than before feeling like it was some sort of like moral failing that I was hungry. Right. So I
Yes.
interpret things very differently now than I did then, but I do see it all the time where we expect ourselves to flip a switch and just do things differently. And that's not how it works. I see it with clients all the time. It's a process of behavior change. It's a process of learning and implementing and figuring this out. And especially, it's kind of one of my pet peeves with the intuitive eating approach or proponents, because I think we sit here and go, wait a minute. You want me to go from following all the rules to just eating what I feel like, right? There's an evolution to that. There's a process to that. I would say now, after however many years, what I do is theoretically intuitive eating, but it takes an approach to get there. There's a path, and that's not always talked about. And it's not flipping a switch either.
Yeah, no, it's interesting that you're saying that because I have a 12-week course and one of the weeks is dealing around meal planning, but I let the individual fill in all the blanks because they're not getting handed a meal plan. They have to create their own. And there's been so many times that people come back and they're like, I'm feeling like this is fluffy. Like I'm missing the rules or regulations because we're so not used to being told to do it. You only know what you like. If you like crunchy, if you like salty, if you like to hand a meal plan over. Yes, we can follow it, but how do we do it on our own? So I don't know. I just think it's always interesting to see people's reactions when they're not given a plan,
Yeah.
a rule, a regulation.
We call it a menu plan. It's not a menu. I always say guidelines, not gospel. There are guidelines on there. And then we're going to figure out what works for you. So with everything, whether it's what Lindsay's giving you, what I'm giving you, whatever it is, right? It's about not about you conforming to the thing. It's about adapting the guidelines to work for you. And sometimes I think that's really helpful to have a coach in that process because we aren't necessarily so sure. We've spent our lives, for most of us, 10, 20, 30, 40 years, malleable and adapting to everything else. And this is the first time we're going, wait a minute, I'm supposed to adapt something to me. I don't even know what that means. The beauty of that is that we can start with this sort of approach to how we fuel ourselves. And then the snowball is what that starts to look like in every area of your life. As you start to recognize, wait a minute, how I've been functioning actually doesn't serve me in other facets of my health, not just around the food stuff, but around my energy and my mood and my stress and my sleep and all the other things that play into it all too.
Yes, I love the snowball. I talk about ripples a lot, and your snowball just gave me a really good visual too of how that all starts to pile onto each other.
Yeah.
So your guidelines, not gospel, just reminded me that I saw some really cute Jen-isms on your website, and I thought it'd be fun to throw some of these out to our listeners today to
Okay.
just let you know why these come up all the time. And again, thank you for the guidelines, not gospel. Like that's so true. And another one that you talk about is you can't outrun your fork. Where'd that come from?
Yes. All right. Again, how many times have we said, I'm going to eat this and just work out extra hard tomorrow? Or we hear the person who says, this morning's workout was wild. I'm really going to eat this whole pizza. Eat less, move more also plays into this, not how the body works. And you know that. You know that 100 calories of Skittles and 100 calories of carrots are not going to be the same inside the body. So like you don't need a nutrition degree. Check that, right? We know it's not eat less, move more. The other piece is when we go to do our activity, it's not like we can say, hey, body, burn the birthday cake now. And then we start to run or move or whatever it is. That's not how it works. Even if it was, let's just go down the path. Let's say it is how it works. And again, let's say the textbook even exists. In a textbook perfect week, how many times might a person exercise or work out?
Textbook 4 or 5 times a week.
Let's even say there's movement 7 days a week, right? Some of those other days being a low intensity walk versus an intense workout. Okay, great.
Yeah.
How many times does somebody eat in a week?
lot more.
Maybe 21, right? If you just said 3 meals a day, forget
Hmm.
any snacks, just call it 3 meals a day. You got 21. You will never undo 21 times of eating and 5 to 7 times of movement. Even if that was how the body worked and we could say, hey, body, burn Skittles.
Hmm.
So you can't outrun your fork.
I love this. That's so cute. I'm just going to go through a couple more because
Yeah.
so good. Protein and fiber at every meal makes removing fat no big deal. Little
Yes.
rhyme for y'all today.
Right. Protein and fiber at every meal makes removing fat no big deal. So protein is clean, lean protein. Eat what you like, don't eat what you don't like. Fiber is vegetables and sometimes fruit. And a meal is really any time we eat. The only difference between a meal or a snack is how much food we have at a time, and then therefore how long it's going to last us till we need to fuel again. The other thing we need a couple times a day, and eventually I'll figure out how to get it into the cute sentence, is quality fat, right? But that is the formula for nutrition to keep our blood sugar balanced in that middle range. Protein, fiber, quality fat. Protein and fiber at every meal makes removing fat no big deal.
It's so cute to have these isms because they become little mantras, I'm sure, for your clients that they can really just say that, sing it,
Exactly. Yep.
that yes. We're going to do one more. Muscle dictates metabolism.
Yeah, muscle dictates metabolism. Muscle is expensive tissue. You got to work for it.
Mhm.
But muscle mass is metabolically active even at rest. Muscle burns fuel, muscle burns calories, no matter what we're doing. Whether we're sitting here having a conversation, or you're listening, or you're walking, or you're sitting on the couch, or at your desk, or whatever it is. The amount of muscle mass we have directly dictates our metabolism, or how much fuel we burn all the time, no matter what, whether we're active or at rest. If we want to improve our metabolism, we can do that through food choices and building muscle. So we want to eat more. We want to be able to enjoy all those foods. Absolutely build more muscle. We want to live long and well and support our joints and all the things. Build muscle.
So, what do you want to say to all of our ladies who possibly think that they've aged out of resistance training or that that's never been them? They don't know if they see themselves in the gym. I feel like you're gonna have
Okay.
some fun advice here.
There's sort of two approaches. I'm inclined to give the tough love moment. Get over it. That's a nonsense story that you've been feeding yourself. You have never been more inclined to build muscle. It has never been more important to build muscle than now and going forward. And okay, it maybe wasn't your thing before. We're going to make it your thing now. Doesn't mean you have to do things that are totally miserable to you. Find some things that you enjoy. This is where group fitness, a personal trainer, something that helps us build muscle. By the way, what builds muscle? Resistance. You can use your own body for tremendous resistance. It doesn't have to mean machines. It doesn't have to mean weights. It doesn't have to mean grunting. It doesn't have to mean something super high intensity,
Mhm.
but we must build muscle. If you are going to live long and live well, you must build muscle. It is a non-negotiable for your health, full stop. And it's very rare that I say something like so definitively, but it really is. It is that important.
Yeah.
And so if you resist the idea of building muscle, likely it's because we've been told cardio for years. We were all cardio bunny. The point of cardio is to use your heart as a muscle. Right? Our heart is a very important muscle. If that muscle doesn't work, we have really big problems, right? So the point of cardio is to use our heart as a muscle. The magical thing, science, not magic, is that we can actually get our heart pumping and use our heart as a muscle through resistance training. So we can actually be infinitely more efficient with our time and activity with resistance training to get our heart pumping like a muscle versus doing cardio and then trying to do some resistance training. So It's about finding the activity you enjoy, getting some guidance so that you don't feel like a fish out of water and you feel comfortable and confident. Form is very important. And a quality guide on the fitness front will help ensure that whatever you're doing is appropriate for your current level of strength and fitness. It's not about starting at something super intense. It's wherever you are, just start moving. So I teach people something even called like 30, 30, 30. So if you're, I have some clients in their 70s and 80s. One just had foot surgery. So her level of activity is really impaired, especially while she's recovering. But you know what she can do? She can sit in a chair. So we're doing leg lifts with her leg outstretched. We're doing arm circles. We're doing side bends, right? Things like that. So 30, 30, 30 is 30 repetitions of 3 different moves. It takes less than 2 minutes. I did this. I have these bonus episodes in my podcast that I call Nutrition Nuggets. I have one called Nutrition Nugget 30, 30, 30. I made up a handful of different variations of 30, 30, 30. I tested them all. They all take less than 2 minutes. You don't get sweaty. You don't have to change your clothes. They all took less than 2 minutes. So it used to be back in the day, we would teach this around commercial breaks in a TV show, but nobody has those anymore, right?
Right.
So now I do it with the 2 minutes before a Zoom meeting. We are never more efficient and effective than in 2 minutes before a Zoom meeting. So what can we do now? When you sit there and you're like, what can I get done in the next 2 minutes? This. 30 squats, 30 lunges, 30 push-ups, 30 side bends, 30 leg lifts, 30 arm circles, 30 repetitions, 3 different moves. Just start to do it. And I know I could go on, and so I'm sorry, but there's just one more thing I really want to say on this front, and that is it doesn't have to be a long time in your day. So maybe you've heard sitting is the new smoking, right? Because it's like the thing we're doing all the time that we don't realize is slowly killing us. It's because sitting all day is not human, right? The human body was designed to move. Okay, well, it's also not human to sit all day and go berserk for an hour. So it's actually way more human to do 2 minutes here and there, to do a 10-minute walk after each time you eat. Over the course of the day, we end up having this activity, but it's just built into our life. It's not necessarily this separate, extra, wild, intense thing that maybe doesn't appeal to you. And that's 1,000% okay.
This is so good. No, I'm so glad you kept going. We will put the 30, 30, 30 in the show notes, your nutrition nugget, so that our listeners can just click on and go there. I can see people going, you could do that. Like I hear what you're saying and I could do that. And I think that's the important part. I call it fitness personalities, that we need to approach things that could excite us a little bit. It doesn't have to be a ton, but just something that we actually want to show up to, or it feels so attainable that why wouldn't we do it? And you're really good at, again, giving motivation for that as well as tools and resources. So thank you. That was huge.
Thank
that was
you.
Good.
Yeah.
Yes. That took us down a little fun rabbit hole. I
know.
That all started with muscles dictate metabolism. And I love your passion behind resistance training and building muscles right now for our women as we age. I hope everyone, I know they did, just felt your passion behind that. I like that you took the strong approach because it can come out of somebody else's mouth and we can just keep hearing that this is so important. So if you're not doing it, in what ways can you think to start? So that's amazing. One thing that I feel like I really want to cover with you is this whole idea willpower is a refillable cup. You're just not refilling it. Because initially as we were kind of going back and forth, I'm like, that word willpower, I think can rub people wrong, or it's misunderstood, or it's overused. So I was like, oh, this will be kind of interesting to see where you go with willpower.
Yeah. So people are saying, I know what to do. I just don't have the willpower.
Mm-hmm.
And I would argue we all have the willpower. We all have tremendous amounts of willpower. It's just that we have never really been taught what willpower actually is and how to harness it, how to understand it, and how to use it. So willpower is actually a finite resource. Many researchers, they will say to you, you get this amount of willpower a day. Really, though, what we've come to learn is that there are things that we can do that replenish it. So understand anytime that we use any self-control, we're drinking from that cup of willpower. So most of us are using that self-control in other areas of our lives. We're using it with kids. We're using it at work. Anytime we have delayed gratification, anytime we have to think through something, debate or weigh options, it uses our willpower. Anytime we have to make a decision, getting dressed in the morning, anytime we have to
Mhm.
make decisions, it drinks from our willpower cup. Other things that drink from our cup: resisting choices, multitasking. And I say that with deep compassion because I am a multitasker like the best of them. Our low blood sugar diminishes our willpower, right? Think about it. You're hangry, right? And the irony of all of that is that we've been taught to eat less, move more. But when our blood sugar is low, we have less willpower, right? Really interesting on that one. There was a study of prisoners who were going before a judge for parole. If they went before the judge in the morning or right after lunch, they received parole 65 to 70% of the time. If they went later in the day, if they went just before lunch, they received parole less than 10% of the time. When our blood sugar is low, we are all about maintaining the status quo, what is comfortable, what is safe. So it stands to reason, of course, we're then craving comfort foods. Of course, we're then going back to these old habits and behaviors that on some level we know don't serve us, but they are driven chemically to help maintain status quo and feel comfortable. What else depletes willpower? It's really if we don't sleep, right? Being a man. So, men have less willpower than we do. Decision fatigue depletes our willpower. So it's no coincidence that breakfast is an easier meal to have, quote unquote, on plan than dinner and after dinner, because at the end of the day, we have depleted this willpower cup to nothing, right? So the key to all of this is to understand what drinks from our willpower cup and then understand what can replenish it, what can refill that cup. So as we talked about already, movement. Movement refills our willpower cup. Glucose or blood sugar. So choosing quality foods, fueling regularly, continues to replenish our willpower cup throughout the day. Self-awareness can actually help replenish our willpower. Having accountability, whether that's a coach or a buddy, can increase our willpower. One of my favorite things that people often overlook is charity and generosity. So kind of goes back to that idea of like maintaining the status quo and kind of being selfish when we don't have willpower. If we hold the door for somebody behind us, if we pay for the next person's coffee, it is a physiological signal that the body is safe and okay because we're thinking of others. Getting outside of ourselves is an inherent signal that we're okay because we can only do that if when we're safe.
That's so
Gratitude
good.
journal, amazing. To-do lists, I have sort of a love-hate with to-do lists, but getting things out of our heads and onto paper so that we don't have to constantly go through that list. And by the way, that applies to our food. Getting it out of our head and onto paper can be really helpful. Distraction is also a really important piece for replenishing willpower. And you've probably heard, like, there was that old study of the kids with the marshmallows where it was like, you can have this marshmallow now, but if you wait like 10 minutes or whatever it was, you can have 2 marshmallows. Well, the kids who were able to wait the 10 minutes distracted themselves. They watched the clock, they looked at the ceiling, they played with their shoelaces. Sometimes all we need is a little distraction or gamification, right? It's why all these apps have all these games and tracking things that help us make it fun. And so we can actually improve our willpower by building some of these things into our day. So whether you want to, I'm a big fan of Post-its. So whether you want to put a bunch of these on a Post-it note and stick that on your desk at work, or put it on your computer screen, or put it on the coffee table, or I have one client who puts a Post-it note on the pint of ice cream because that's her go-to, right? The point is to use the note to remind you of the options of things that you can do. Maybe block time in your calendar midday to get some fresh air outside and go for a walk, and let that replenish your willpower. Call a friend. Do the things that help give us those faculties back so that we have the willpower for when we need it. The last thing I'll say in this, because I know,
No, this is so good.
Okay, good. In all the research, those who use willpower most effectively use their willpower for a finite period of time to create habits and rituals. Because once something is habitual, it does not require our mental capacity. And therefore, it leaves the willpower for those special situations when we really need it. So consider the habits that we're creating every day, using our willpower to create some of these habits and routines and rituals. So that then when we have the special event, then when we have the birthday party, the holiday, the work thing, the vacation, we have willpower left in our cup that we can then use when we really want it.
This is so good. I'm like geeking out over this conversation because you're rounding out another favorite conversation of there was a therapist that came on that was talking about like, what are we really hungry for? Are we really hungry for me time? Are we really hungry for sleep or for movement? And then we're replacing what we're really hungry for with food. So we need to pay attention to what we're really hungry for. And this is rounding that out with the whole concept of we are draining that cup when we're not attending to those needs. So not only are we seeking out food for the things that we're not meeting, the needs that we're not meeting, we're also depleting our resource that helps us to keep our power, to stay in, not that we're ever in full control, but that feeling of I can control the situation. So thank you. This is like, it's just such a great visual. And again, really confirms like the importance of if you are not attending to some me time, or if you're not attending to sleep, if you're not, you're truly scientifically giving yourself less of an opportunity for success, where people feel like it's the opposite, right? We'll push through lunch, we'll push through sleep, we'll push through, and I'll beat myself into submission, and then I'll get to my success. And it's polar opposite of what you just beautifully described. So thank you. That was.
Yeah, thank you. Well said.
Yeah. Everybody on earth should understand that. Like this should be taught in a health class at some point, and maybe our kids are already getting more of that next generation type thinking, but
Crossing fingers. I don't know yet.
No, it's exciting to think about that. So, all right, that's a lot for people to start to ponder and think about today. I always like to wrap up in this way. And I also, for everybody going, oh, I'm loving Jen, I want you to tell them where else to find you besides your podcast. But also close us out with, if you could wrap your arms around our listeners and like if they missed everything and they could only hear one thing, what do you want to make sure and highlight that they heard out of you today?
There's nothing wrong with you. The body is doing everything it is supposed to do. Our job is to figure out why it's getting the signals to do what it's doing that isn't what we in our heart of hearts want it to be. And then how can we give the body what it needs so that it starts to do what we want it to do? We got to be on the same team as our body. There's nothing wrong with you. We just need to find that partner to help us figure it out.
Love to be on the same team. That's so good. All right. Website. I feel like you do coaching. You have a membership.
Yes.
Tell us all. Tell all.
All right. All social media. I am at Jen Trepeck, JennTrepeck. Website is asaladwithasideoffries.com. Podcast is Salad with a Side of Fries. Please send a message. I love hearing from you. I have, like you mentioned, membership is $10 a month to get a little bit of extra goodies delivered to your inbox on Fridays. I do one-on-one and group cohort coaching, lots of options to help you where you are. And I also do a lot in my practice with supplementation. So I have a lot of people who have a coach or on a plan, but are looking for additional support or tools around some of the things that they're hearing about on the internet and maybe don't necessarily know where to start. So we can help everybody with that too. So thank
Yes,
you so
so
much,
good.
Lindsay.
Oh my goodness. Thank you, Jen, for your time, your wisdom today, and you're welcome to come back anytime and keep giving us more of that. So
Thank
thank you
you.
for your time.